Okay, Mike Pompeo got himself into a bit of trouble yesterday talking about the transition of power. Is it a big deal? Let's hear what he has to say.
Is the State Department currently preparing to engage with the Biden transition team? And if not, at what point does a delay hamper a smooth transition or pose a risk to national security?
Okay, at what point so at what point is a key thing to keep in mind here. That will be something Pompeo touched on multiple times. At what point is it a problem?
There will be a smooth transition to a second Trump administration. Right? We're ready. The world is watching what's taking place here. We're going to count all the votes. When the process is complete, there'll be electors selected. There's a process. The Constitution lays it out pretty clearly. The world should have every confidence that the transition necessary to make sure that the State Department is functional today, successful today, and successful with the president who's in office on January 20th, mid afternoon, will also be successful.
So you believe there's
Okay, so there's the real answer. There's the joke, and then there's the real answer. I really don't think that answer in itself is controversial. The Trump thing, you're kind of like, okay. The question really is this: is the Trump administration actively committing fraud themselves? In other words, think about it like this: did voter fraud happen? The answer to that question is yes. It happens every election. Okay, this isn't controversial. It's usually less than 1% of votes or something like that. It's a pretty insignificant number. Okay, so it happens. So voter fraud happens. Therefore, we know that it happened this election. Now, the question that's being posed by the Trump administration is, did it happen at a level now that puts it where it puts the election results in question? So you'd have to have multiple states, where voters were either thrown away or created to, swing the vote for Joe Biden. I don't think that's happened because I have not seen the evidence. I haven't seen any evidence for it, so I don't think it happened. It could have. I can't disprove it. Neither can you. None of us can disprove it right now, but there's no evidence to believe that. So I'm happy saying I don't think there's anything here. Okay. Now, that doesn't mean that the Trump administration, Mike Pompeo and Kelly McEnany and Mike Pence and whoever else you want to list off, that they don't have access to information that we don't have, and it will come out in court. Or they might really believe it happened, but they're wrong, and they're trying to pursue the legal means to make sure that it didn't happen. So they could have a good faith that they think this is how it went down, and they're just wrong. That's quite possible. They could be being malicious. We don't know. Ascribing motives sometimes for every little thing is a little bit much for my take. So here's how the election actually works. The votes are cast. They're counted. People can read that information. It's public information, right? I can read it. You can read it. So I can tell you President Donald Trump won the state of Texas. Okay? That is a fact based upon how the election process works. He got the most votes in Texas. The Texas Secretary of State will certify that, and then the electoral votes will be cast for Donald Trump's favor for the state of Texas. This is how it works. Now, when that all happens, that is actually when the new president in this case, becomes the new president. When that happens, that moment, when the electoral votes are cast, that's when it happens. It doesn't happen when the media calls it on election night. And people are arguing over this. I don't understand why. I am perfectly fine to say that Vice President-elect Joe Biden. I have no problem with that. That seems to be the most proper way. The presumed President-elect. However you want to say it, I have no problem with that. That's no problem. Because if it gets overturned in some court case the next few weeks, okay, well, we didn't lose anything because the Electoral College process has not happened. So this fighting over what the media does and what they don't do is kind of silly. The media tells you what the results are. Anyone who can do math and read could go tell you what the results are for all 50 states. You can find that online. The media then reports that. Okay? Based upon that, Joe Biden is president-elect. Now, that does not mean, as a matter of law or constitutionality or whatever you want to say, that he's actually president-elect. That happens when the electoral votes are cast. The distinction there only comes into play when the election is being contested. And in this case, it is being contested. So between now and the time electoral votes are cast, the election is being contested. What does it mean? Probably nothing. I don't think Trump actually has the case to make. He has to make his case in multiple states. It seems unlikely. And by the time that process comes, the votes will be cast, and probably Biden will be the next president-elect. Okay, that's how it goes. And then he'll be president-elect until he's sworn in. Was it the 20th, something like that? So these are things that everyone is fighting over, and it's very simple to kind of break it down, talk about it. Who is doing what? I don't know. I have no idea. I looked at a lot of the voter fraud stuff. I don't find it very convincing. I could be way off though. Wouldn't be the first time. And if that's true, then we should all applaud Donald Trump for exposing a mass voter fraud campaign that was trying to overthrow the presidency. Right? So if Trump's right and he wins the presidency, we should all want whoever perpetrated this fraudulent act to be put in jail. If he's wrong, since we don't know his motives, at least now, maybe one day that'll come out, we don't know his motives, we can assume that either A, he has evidence that proves what he's saying, or B, we can simply say that maybe he thought he was cheated and he wasn't. Okay. C would be he's being malicious and he's intentionally trying to deceive people. That's possible as well. We just don't have the evidence. We don't know which of those variables it is. So Joe Biden is the president-elect, presumed to be the next president of the United States. That happens when the electoral votes are cast. There's nothing in contention there. That could change between now and the time the electoral votes are cast. This is not that hard, and to make it out to be that big of a deal is fine. It's not fine. I don't understand why the media can't just nuance it as simple as I did just there. I will be on the warroommedia.com, warroommedia.com for the newsletter. It's $10 a month, $100 for the year. We'll be talking about Scranton Joe. Is that a fact or a fallacy?